Welcome back on the AM Show. It's time now for the news review. Remember, the AM Show is proudly sponsored by Waylead Properties, and they lead the way when it comes to properties and investment. Let me ask you, are you thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in? Well, let me proffer Waylead Company Limited. It is your preferred choice for such an investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with many developments to its credit right here in Accra. And we're inviting you. Invest in our new development, Willow Lane, where elegance meets tranquility in the heart of Accra. We provide quality housing at an affordable cost and also with a flexible payment option. There's more. At Waylead Properties, we provide you with 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay memorable. Just give us a call now. Pick up your phone. The numbers are 0240 111 119 or 0504 499 999. You can also visit www.waylead.org. And if you're thinking of, your water tank in that place you're going to stay in, Sweetie will be telling you more.
Ganato, let's talk about water tanks. Today I feel like speaking away throughout, but I'll manage because you do know the secret to real water storage, right? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right. The tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is a champion of water tanks. It is strong and durable and built to handle our Ghanaian weather. So whether rain or shine, Syntex tank has got your back. Go outside right now, check your tank, and if it doesn't have the tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Call us on this number, 0244 335 168 to buy one or find one of our 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough. And joining us for the news review this morning is Kwadwo Poku, energy analyst, and Alhaji Asum from the Movement for Change. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Kwadwo, I'm sure our audience have missed you.
Yes,
it's been a minute you joined us for breakfast.
Yes, because we decided that after the election, some of us were going to stay back and watch the space and give the ruling party time to basically hang themselves and make their own mistakes before we come in and start telling them.
So in all that time that you've spent observing, what's your assessment of the
Well, they are still trying to get onto their feet. I think they are shooting themselves in the foot, not focusing in doing the agenda which President Mahama set out there. They are being distracted by things that are not necessary. And I think, like the various Rambo arrests going around the country and unnecessary distraction they bring on themselves. I think President Mahama had a contract with Ghanaians to do a 120 days achievement. And that is in next month. In 30 days, we are in the 120 days. And a lot of the things that I think they should have concentrated to do, they've not concentrated in doing that. And I doubt in next month they'll be able to. But when we get there, we'll take a checklist, take out the 120-day contract with Ghanaians, and tell Ghanaians what they were not able to do or where they were able to achieve them.
All right. Do you come with a separate message, or would this be your initial thoughts for us?
No, that's fine. These are my initial thoughts.
Nana Asapong, welcome to the program. What's on your mind this morning before we get into the papers?
So I just would still want to emphasize the fact that we ought to be able to prepare ourselves towards the rains that have started. I think there were some drizzles last night. And then we would also urge that the MIARE and the ECG put themselves together so that in these times that we do not experience some of these power cuts. Shouldn't be the excuse that the storms are coming. And so basically that is just my thoughts.
Benjamin.
I mean, that also reminds me of the Garrett project and other projects we've had, over time. We've had DRIP, we've had Garrett, and all of these. Some of them are meant to also mitigate these. And I always go back to this, Kwadwo, that gentleman who in 2000 and something, in the 2010s, the Canadian who used to bet that, Accra will flood. If they hadn't stopped that bet, that gentleman would have been winning till today, which is sad. It tells you that so many things are just not going right in that regard. But we can only hope and pray. In recent years, we've not had very bad storms like in maybe 2015 and some of what we've had. But the meteorologists have also been telling us that we should expect worse rains.
So what are we praying?
So we must actually work at completing some of what we've said we'd do. I remember the Kwali and some things that were said how many years ago, and even a whole redevelopment. Yeah. And you know, actually, from what I hear, they used to do, what's the name? There's a name for it. It
was a race sort of a thing.
Yes. You know those ships. There's a name for it. I've just forgotten. And they used to do that.
Yes.
And look at what it is, what we've turned it into as a country.
Yeah, but the
today.
point is, what are we praying for? I asked that question. You said we should hope and pray. What are we praying for?
Yes, and I said we should work.
We pray.
You remember?
Yeah, but
work?
pray. Yes. So I don't see where the prayer comes in.
You're not a praying man.
I am a praying man, but when it comes to certain things,
you pray for everything.
No, you don't. You pray for rain, but when the rain comes, you are now praying that it doesn't flood. The flooding is caused by humans. The flooding is caused by our neglect. The flooding is caused by our improper planning. I've seen President Mahama go around the country inspecting certain areas and putting certain questions, right? But look, there is a man called Mr. Waisametekwe, one of the senior hydrological people in this country. If you sit with him for 5 minutes, you invite him on your show one day and he will tell you some of the things that we got it wrong. And unless we correct those things, we will forever have floods, especially when they were building the flyover at the circle. Some of the designs that were done, what's wrong? And when you see those floods there, it's not because somebody prayed that, you can pray. When somebody does a wrong design, what are you praying for? So I'm saying that we need to correct these things than to say that, look, we should pray. My little brother who now sits...
I do not think we have...
No, you let him land.
My brother who sits at Ministry of Works and Housing, I actually sent him a message and said, look, try and get the right experts around you, visit these areas, and let's correct these problems before the rain starts. And he said, yes, they are going to do it. And I've seen them doing some work. For me, when you say pray, I don't see where the prayer comes in.
Well, you can be very selective, that's okay, but I coupled it with work. Of course, you can't pray that God will come and build your canals and stuff for you too. But all I'm saying is that, yes, we need to take a second look at, Tema. If you look at the original plan of Tema, the blueprint for Tema, and what we've turned Tema into, there's a reason that in some spots we are seeing flooding today. If you look at cantonments and the plan for cantonments and how we are building haphazardly, and politicians are also from all angles grabbing left, right, and center and putting up certain structures that even ought not to be there. Even Airport City, today, it's turning into something else. For Okponglo, there's a reason it floods every time when it rains heavily. After how many minutes? Sometimes after minutes.
I think, Ben,
so let's not. There's so much work to be done.
A national dialogue on how to re-engineer cities that we have. I mean, Accra, Tamale, Kumasi, Takoradi, Sunyani, and other places. We have to actually sit down and redesign and have a rethink about the engineering designs that we have.
But it doesn't flood in Kumasi. It doesn't flood in Kumasi.
It used not to flood.
It doesn't flood in Kumasi.
It used not to flood.
Yes, but Kumasi is engineered properly.
Yeah, we are. That's
the point I'm making.
But we've had incidents.
Let's be genuine.
I remember incidents.
I can tell you one incident in the last 5 years, which is the Dakujum. No. And that we all know why that happened. But I'm saying that the engineering of Kumasi,
one person at a time. Okay, he was actually.
We are thinking beyond 5 to 10 years because Accra used not to flood. You understand? We used not to have these kind of engineering problems. We used not to have people going into cantonments and airport areas to build. These things are going to begin to happen in other regions, and we need to guard against it. And that is why we should be able to have a national dialogue on the engineering of our cities. Clear cut. I mean, if you go to Tamale has bicycle lanes and pedestrian lanes. You understand me? Accra has not it. Sunyani is yet to see such level of development. If we think beyond where we are today and look into the next 10 years and are able to tell that we would have probably the population about 10 million in addition to the population we have today, we would plan for that population.
And with climate change and everything, I mean, apart from everything else, every country, I mean, China, Turkey, Australia, so many, they flood. So no matter how well planned you will still face these. But for ours, we face a double whammy because the planning is poor, and then you also have...
My point was to reinforce what he was saying. You see, the reason I brought in Kumasi is that Kumasi is properly engineered. What we are having now is somebody dismantling what the engineering put in place. That's why I said it doesn't flood in Kumasi. But today, the reason you are seeing flood in some areas in Kumasi is people going in to disrupt the properly planned city. Kumasi, because of the Subin, the Subin River is...
But what's happening there is exactly what has happened in Termine cantonments. The same, what is beginning to happen there, as you're saying it, is exactly what has happened there. So if we are not, obviously we are not learning.
Okay, no problem.
Because there is a mayor, right?
Right.
There's a mayor in Kumasi. There's a regional minister, and we see all of these. So some of these things, I don't know, but it just boils.
But I don't know what all of these boil down to political will.
Well, gentlemen,
that as a people,
At the end of the day, we should look beyond 5-10 years.
Yes.
It looks like we like doing development in thoughts. Whether it's NDP.
That's what I'm talking about, political will.
We need to do 5-10 years. You know why?
Why?
Because we don't do well with... I'm not saying we shouldn't do long term. You remember Osafo Mafo and the famous quotes about 40 years?
That is what I'm talking about, political will.
But when the Chinese do extensive planning, they still break it down. So if you do project management, there's a project and there's a broader program. You do project together becomes a program. You can have 40 years. Break it down into 3 years, 5 years, and the rest. And you know why I'm saying that? Even the short-term ones, we don't do well with completing the short-term ones. And it also has led to the many abandoned projects you see littered across the country. So let's not go too far when you can't even do the short-term.
You see, the problem with that is whatever power...
I'm not saying don't do long-term, but let the long-term be short-term as well. Break it down.
The political will to the mindset, you understand me? If we have a good mindset and we have a mindset change towards our country, we should be able to plan. Of course, we have planned it. They've all sat. I think yesterday or the day on another network, I said that our leaders, those who are supposed to be managing the economy in the country, they sit in classrooms with us, they sit in churches with us, they sit in mosques with us. When they come out, it is as though they were never there. Mindset.
Okay, let's get into the newspapers, gentlemen. I have the Daily Democrat. I'll read out the headlines and then we can discuss the stories that pique your interest. Sam George dismantles dubious NPP tech contracts. Feed Ghana project launch rescheduled to April 12th. Ama Bua targets full digitalization of Lands Commission. Printpag Media Foundation for West Africa unites to champion gender equality. So let's get into the details. We did not authorize any funeral for late Alhaji Asum Abu Band. Oh, that's from the family. I saw that press conference yesterday. So the Abu Band family has officially disassociated itself from an unauthorized funeral service being organized for the late Alhaji Asum Abu Band at the State House. And this was at a solemn press conference held at a mosque built by the late businessman and philanthropist. Let me move on to 7-member committee inaugurated to probe Nigerian boxer's death. And Feed Ghana launch rescheduled to April 12th. The much anticipated launch of the government's flagship agricultural initiative, the Feed Ghana program, has been rescheduled from Friday, April 11th to Saturday, April 12th, 2025. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture has announced, so take notice. It means it's still coming just a day after the actual scheduled date. Ama Kofi Bua vows to reset and reform Lands Commission. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Ama Kofi Bua, has embarked on a familiarization tour of the Lands Commission, marking his maiden visit since assuming office. And, quote, I bring you greetings from, it goes on and on, but I wanted to see if I can find what exactly the reform is about. He's determined to change the status quo. He disclosed that a full digitalization of land services was a top priority. Okay, so he noted that Ghana needs approximately $165 million to complete a nationwide digital mapping exercise, a reform he described as a game changer. I'll add 2 more stories and then we can start discussing. Transform mining or step aside, Lands Minister warns. And saboteurs will be crushed, Lands Minister. Looks like the paper is full with stories from the Lands Ministry. Sam George dismantles dubious NPP tech contract. So the Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, Sam George, has come out strongly against what he describes as financially reckless and unsustainable contracts inherited from the previous NPP administration, pledging to cancel, restructure, or prosecute deals that undermine Ghana's digital future. And I just want to add that we heard yesterday about the re-registration, and he says it's not a re-registration, it's a proper registration this time round. But over to you, gentlemen. I'll start with you, Kwadwo Poku, beg your pardon. Which of these stories do you want to start?
Well, whenever you hear digitalization, you have to now say good morning to Mr. Digital Man, wherever you are, sir. I greet you this morning, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. You are the guy that have set the standard, and you have preached digitalization so well in this country that digitalization is now part of our vein as a country.
You think it's all to the credit of...
It's because, yes. When he has said, look, in our manifesto, and Doctor went around the country talking about digitalizing the Lands Commission, right? It's in our manifesto. It's not in the NDT manifesto. But today, Mr. Kofi Boah, seeing the light, is saying that he wants to do that. Kwadwo Poku have said that anything that we, the MPP, put in our manifesto, that the NDC see fit to do, we will support them to do it. Right? So I'm happy that Mr. Kofi Boah, Honorable Kofi Boah, is seeing that digitalizing the Lands Commission is the way to go, which is something Dr. Baumia preached during his campaign. So it's a good thing that we are doing that, because it's very important we do that. So look, good luck to him, and we will support him to digitalize the Lands Commission, because it's very important for people to have confidence in our land tenure system.
I like how you took credit for this, but I'll leave it to our audience.
No, but that's what it is. It's not taking credit for it. I'm saying that we propose to do it. We propose to do it. He's coming to say he's going to do it. We'll support him to do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the way to go. Look, I have said that there's no point. Look, politics is about ideas. Yes, you can bastardize my ideas for the sake of going on election campaign, but after the election is over, you see something good in what I said and you want to do it. There's nothing wrong with that.
All right.
And for me, it's Ghana first. So today, if Honorable Kofi Boah sees fit that digitalizing the Lands Commission is the way to go, all well and good, but let's not forget the man who is known across the country as Mr. Digital.
Just a quick point, just to follow up on this. Harmless question, innocuous. What is digitalization for you?
It's basically going on from the analog system to a more digitalized database.
Use the word again.
Yes, because it is. I don't know how to explain it otherwise. It is going away from the paper-based system to a more online database-driven technology of doing things. Today, let me give you an example. If you go to Lands Commission today, most of our land tenure system and ownership and all that is not properly documented online. And you need to have a database so that somebody can, on one scroll, go through the system to now see what is what. I don't need to go to a place where they need to go and bring 10 files to show me something. All these maps that we have in Lands Commission should be online and should be in a digitalized form whereby I can go onto a computer and scan it. And when these things, you also incorporate blockchain technology, it now makes it more virtual. Okay, so that is what that is where the world is going. That is why we say that the paper technologies that we have, with all maps existing in scrolls and in cupboards, all need to move online.
All right. Let me just, the quick point I wanted to make, and it's also a common issue. What you've described is digitization.
Yes.
Not digitalization.
What's the difference?
Digitization is when you convert processes, systems, and all of that into certain formats that are easy. So moving from, let's say, this and making it electronic,
yes,
which indeed we've had in this country for
reduce customer stress
for God knows how long.
Have you been to Lands
even
Commission?
In the 90s.
Have you been to Lands Commission?
I have.
Are their system digitalized?
They are being digitized. They are being digitized.
Exactly. So they are not. So what I say we have in this country.
You're not even getting. You're not.
But Ben, let's go. You said we had in this country for how many years? In Lands Commission, their systems are not, in whichever language you want to use, whether digitalized or what's the word you used?
You make your point.
No, I'm just saying. But Lands Commission,
you will not even allow me.
But Lands Commission is not. Lands Commission is not digitalized.
Okay.
If it was, why would Mr. Kofi Boah saying that he wants to do it?
I've been to the Lands Commission. Part of what they do is digitized. and I keep reinforcing, the difference is if you digitize, you convert into systems, software that can be used like some of the data at the Lands Commission, like you're saying, at the DVLA. When you digitalize, you harness that so that you can actually get value from it, which is where, for example, in some cases, you can get money from a system. So there are two different things you're addressing. And I'm just trying to make the point that if it's digitization, which is actually what you are driving at, we've been digitized.
Okay, so you're saying that Honorable Kofi Boah shouldn't spend the $165 million he intends to spend?
No, that's not the argument.
So what's the point now? So what's the point he's making?
Okay, the point I think Ben is trying to make is that when you cannot take credits for digitalization.
But I'm not saying that. I'm saying that with what Kofi, what I'm saying, look.
They were in the process.
Whatever they are, the minister is saying that he's going to spend 165 million. Unless Ben is telling me that Honorable Kofi Boah shouldn't spend it because it already exists.
But what you're saying is like a jump
so
from
how is it that we've had digitization in this country for decades, and all of a sudden, digitization feeding into digitalization, even VAT, and so many systems that the GRA has used, all of a sudden it is Dr. Bawumia.
Ben, I don't get,
it becomes
I don't get your point. Just you want to rebut this thing because I mentioned doctor's name. My point is that Honorable Kofi Boah is saying that he's going to spend 165 million. I'm saying that this drive, this policy was championed by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Honorable Kofi Boah is going to do it. We support him to do it. I don't get your point.
Let's move forward. When you started, you didn't go and say this policy.
I didn't finish with my point. Then you mentioned the Asuma Banda family.
Yes.
I wish them well, and for somebody who comes from a similar family where there is huge number of siblings and multiple functions within, I really wish that they take note from some of what some of us have been through and avert the conflict that is ahead. Because I think, reading from what you said, people saying that there's a funeral we are not part of and all that is going to be very messy. Because even before he passed away, we all saw what happened when the family, the kids stormed the wife's house and all that. So I really wish that some elders within the country sits them down, because look, my family went through it. A lot of family has gone through it. When you have huge families of various functions, these things happen. I think that this one, if the big elders in this country don't get involved, it's going to get very messy.
Yes. Well, thank you for those reflections. And let's hear you out now. Nanaya Sapon.
Yes, thank you, Sweetie, and good morning to your viewers. So, Sweetie, in 2007-2008, I wrote a paper on the computerization of the banking sector, and I used the rural banking sector as a case study. Now, when we are talking about computerization, then we would want to peg it around the same level with digitization. And so, if anybody would want to take credit for such a move by a nation, that would not be fair. You would notice that in the olden days, you would go to banks and they would give you cards. And if Ben, I don't know which year you did your national service, but those times you would go to the national service office and they'll give you a green card and you would sign on it. And that was a manual system. And then we moved on to the computerization system. And then we have gotten to a point whereby we want to harness the benefits of all of this into the digitalization. And that is where we are. And I think that the Lands Commission has moved from where they were in the previous days, when you would have to go and look for files all over and they did not even have proper filing numbers, into a system where now you walk in and you have a file, you have a proper number, and it is well arranged administratively. And they are moving on to another level. And now every nation, when you are moving on to probably what I would term an industrialized economy, where you would want to make good use of the everyday data that you have to be able to have a direct effect and impact on your economy, then it means that you are moving into the level of proper digitalization. And so it is an economic move. I think that once you are a developing nation and you are growing, you would move into it. This is not a policy that I think that anybody should take credit for. And I think that the lands minister has made a good call. What is important that we should take note is whether or not indeed they would allow the systems to work. They should be able to have a system that is so robust that people will not come in to hijack it, and then though we would have that system operating, we will still have human beings manipulating the system. But they should go in for a good thing. And I will join that to the contract issues that were raised by Sam George. Some of these contracts, we should look at the value for money, and we should look at the proper procedures. I have stated several times that we think that the Procurement Act ought to be looked at. There's so much lacuna in that act. We had proposed that we should scrap or do away with the sole sourcing, and then we should deal with proper bidding when it comes to some of these contracts so that we have value for money. We should look at it in priority as to whether or not indeed some of these contracts are needed for this nation. The very last one will be the Asum Abu Band family. We grew up reading about Alhaji Asum Abu Band. I remember the very first day I ever met him. It was an honor. And if you are talking about business gurus in Africa, persons who are self-made through entrepreneurship and through business, you cannot mention the first 10 names without finding the name of Alhaji Asum Abu Band in it. I think that the family would have to sit down, as Kwadwo has mentioned. The elders of this nation would have to probably call them. So, of course, the funeral at the forecourt of the State House today is being organized by the wife, Barbara, if I got the name right. Madam Baba, yes. And so, why not? If the family says they don't know anything about it, I know that is the wife. We don't have to go into the nitty-gritties of it. But they ought to come together, and they need to be able to resolve these problems once and for all. It's not good for the name.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. That's it for the Daily Democrats. What paper do we have next? Nana, what do you have? The Overseer. We have the New Republic as well.
I have the Observer.
Okay, let's get into the Overseer.
Hey, the Overseer. What is he overseeing? Okay, so the front page, we have scrapping e-levy. Scrapping e-levy will promote digital financial inclusion. His Excellency John Mahama. And we have Okada Riders Association rejects government age threshold proposal. We have GRA exceeding Q1 tax revenue target. That's the first quarter tax revenue target. Collects 41 billion Ghana cedis. Labour experts applauds Mahama for halting retiree contracts. National Health Insurance Scheme receives 1.4 billion boost. Honorable Gyakye Quayson. And then the very last one is Quayson acquitted dual citizenship case.
In fact, I saw a post that said that should have been the biggest story yesterday. But for that, should I call it a raid? Please go on.
Yes.
When we get into it, we'll discuss.
I think that I would want to touch on the GRA issue and then the labor. Of course, I put a post on my Facebook page, and we are appealing to their grandmothers and our grandfathers. If you have stayed in an office for 30 to 40 years and you could not mentor a young man or woman, you could not put down administrative history, what would a 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years contract do for you or do for the nation? I have been thinking through, man. I have thought through over and over. You have some of these persons who are fighting for these 1 year, 2 years contract. Stay in the office in which they are for 15 years. You couldn't train anybody to take over because the excuse they are given is that if they go, there will be loss of administrative memory. if they go, the experience would not be gotten. For 15 solid years of your life in a position, on a seat, you could not train or mentor anyone. Then you need a year or two. That is not fair. You see, what we should be fighting for is the fact that we should be able to have that system where we are able to have, these organizations build guards, frameworks that would help grow the next generation, not to block young ones from exhibiting or showcasing their talents.
What would these systems look like, Nanayo?
These are pure HR deficiencies. Really. And you see, it is not only at the level of the civil service. That is what happens when we even go to sign international contracts. Look at these international organizations, really. If you look at their organizational organograms, all right, where there is supposed to be transfer of technology, at that level, if you are not careful, you will not find the local person there. Meanwhile, they sign these contracts and they tell you that there will be transfer of technology. And at the point, that line where there is the use of the technology, where the technology is exhibited, and they are supposed to learn, you don't find locals there.
Okay.
And so continuously, you would notice that we will not have experts in those areas. For heaven's sake, we have a backlog of, if you go to some of these institutions, you would find out that there are so very old men.
Nana, your point made on that. Any other reflections before we come to Kojo briefly? And
the last one is the GRA targets. I have been of the view that GRA should stop announcing whether or not they have achieved their targets. They always
declare?
What's the name? They set their targets below certain lines and they go to achieve, and they will come back and tell us that people are not paying their targets.
You have to back this by facts. When you say they always set their targets
in the system.
But Anaya, to be fair to them, you also know that year after year.
What was the target?
Relax. Year after year, even if you are saying that they intentionally set targets below what they know is their capacity.
That's right.
If it has been growing for a number of years, over a decade now, it's been growing. Even if they are, pegging it at a lower rate, it means there have been a lot of increments. It's a positive development.
Thank you very much for
it's not negative.
On national television
Thank you very
and say
much.
that.
Even our budget. Naya.
It's national. So I know it's joy news. What I'm saying is that what they should be announcing is their proactiveness to dealing with the wastage.
As for that, it ought to be dealt with, but be fair to them. And I'm referring you to even our budget.
The energy
even our budget.
In announcing their targets.
Some of the targets have been revised down.
The energy they are putting in announcing and praising themselves for achieving this target. Have they told you how much wastage?
What do you mean by waste or wastage?
Yeah.
No, specify for me what you mean. Is it the slippages? Is it the number of people who are not paying taxes? What do you mean?
One, the number of persons who are not paying. Two, those who are underpaying. The ones that are paying and yet they are not going.
It's not solely the GRA that is supposed to deal with that situation, is it?
They are the revenue collectors.
Are they policy makers?
They are revenue collectors.
Are they policy makers?
Yes, they are.
Are they policy makers?
Yes.
They may help shape policy. They don't make
they
policy.
They propose, they draw the policy.
They may help shape
policy. They are the institution that is responsible for our revenue collections. They are supposed to sit down and draw the policies for government to actually look at and approve. I do not think that you expect the president or the finance minister to draw a policy for GRE. I don't think that is what you are telling me.
So we should leave it to the GRA.
The GRA are supposed to make proposals. They are the field workers.
Why then, throughout this Fourth Republic, have we had governments making proposals, even VAT? Let me take you back to VAT. Who came up with VAT? Was it the GRA?
VAT proposals are made by the institution.
Was it the GRA that came up with
I would not
VAT?
be surprised if they were. But if they were not, then I would be surprised.
The
Because
GRA,
that is their technical job.
the GRA didn't come through with the e-levy. Whether now that has been scrapped before or after, they did not propose
E-levy is a
take it
different
or don't take it.
E-levy is a different conversation.
They shape it,
But
they may
do you
contribute,
agree-
but
do you
they are
agree
not
with
the
me
doyens of it.
that the technical men are those who are supposed to draw the policies?
That should be the case. It is not the case.
All right. Look, the way I look at it is that in every institution, when you've been at managerial level, like some of us have been, you have to encourage people to do well. There are budgets, there are achieved, and there are variances. If you look at this, if I sit as the head of GRA and the budget is 39 billion, and they achieve 41 billion, it means they've had a positive variance going forward, which is a good thing, right? So that is why they need to be encouraged. And I think that's what this news headline is trying to do.
I mean, no one is saying the GRA is where we want it to be.
Yes,
but thank God it's not where it used to be.
Yes, but the point is that if they achieve first quarter 41 billion, what it means is that next year, their target will be more than 41 billion. So we are moving, like you said, we are moving up and up. Yes, there are inefficiencies in the system. Look, again, I always keep going back to the fact that there is a need to restructure our tax system, and that has not been done yet. But there is problems within how these penalties and stuff. But if GRA comes and say that they have been able to achieve 2 billion more than their target, it's a good thing, which means that year on year, we are improving in our revenue collection. The other thing I want to talk about will be the point he made about the retirees, okay? Look, 60 years, it's a common belief now that we are retiring too early. We have to look at our pension laws and retirement age and take it up to at least 65 or 68 because it is affecting SNIT. People are retiring at 60 and leaving on pension for another 20 years, right? The person probably got into the civil service, paid 30 years of contribution and leave for another 30 years or leave for another 20 years. So as a nation, we need to have that conversation. If you see the kind of people that are retiring at 60, does it make sense?
It doesn't.
It does not make sense.
Doesn't change what the law says.
Well, that's the point I'm saying, that we need to look at the law again. We need to look at our retirement age.
Let me add this. Some countries in recent times, I think even Trump is talking about retirement ages and all of that.
In the UK, they moved it to 68.
Some are pushing it.
Yes, in the
forward.
UK, they moved it to 60.
I know in the UK, there have been conversations.
They've changed it.
On
the UK
that
was changed.
as well. But you see, we must also, yes, and I understand, look at it technically. In this country, you may have a university graduate at maybe 24, 25. He may get a job at 35. There are some cases like that, which means that maybe even those initial jobs may not be that. Let's say the good job comes around 40. Indeed, you are contributing just about what?
20 years.
20 years.
Yes.
But beyond that, beyond this problem, there are also people, if you look at what it says, where the system has been abused wantonly. There are people who, for political reasons, will be brought there when they are past their tenure, when there are younger people who are retiring, who could have taken up the position. It adds to the numbers, and then it also look at those who may be due for promotion. It's always, the young people always complaining that, and you are still keeping this person here. There are so many dynamics. I read the entire thing yesterday. I still have a screenshot somewhere. So there are different dynamics to it, but we have to have a conversation because it's not everybody too that you will say because they've hit a certain age, they must go and not come again.
Well, the age is
some of the talent, some of the people, their skills.
Exactly. I'll give you an example, Ben. In our medical field, right? We have these specialists and they are retiring, are supposed to retire at 60. And these are people with 30 years of in-depth medical experience. And they are parts of the country where we don't have any medical experts at all, right? And we are retiring, we are wholesaling people home at 60 years. 60 years, Kwadwo Poku in 10 years will be 60. Look how young I look, right? And in 10 years, I'll still look the same. I've known you, Ben, for what? A good 10 years, and I still look the same, right? So imagine you retire me in 10 years. Well, it's just brains that is just going to go home to rot.
Yes, but
so that's why I'm saying that we need to look at a holistic conversation.
And I agree with you.
Yes.
And depoliticize the conversation.
Yes.
Because let's face the facts. With every administration that has come through, with anybody who has hit the age, who is given some, extension. Yes. There is some politics in there. Let's not run away.
I agree 100%.
And that is why, if you follow the concerns, apart from bloating the wage bill with some of these, because these are usually top jobs. Mm-hmm. So if you look at their perks and what they are getting, it adds a lot to the wage bill. You look at the contract extensions breaching legal protocols. In fact, if you look at Article 1911 of the Constitution of Ghana and the provisions there, a public officer shall, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, retire from the public service on attaining the age of 60 years. The president's suspension, of course, then feeds into that conversation. So like you said, the Constitution says one thing, yes, but we have to have a holistic way of dealing.
Because in the UK, when they did it,
but we have too many of such.
I remember so well because my mom at the age at that time was 58. They gave the option of early redundancies. So if you don't want to stay until 65 in the UK when they did it, if you are 58 and you think you're retiring in 2 years, they say, look, the retirement age is being shifted to 65. If you want to take an early retirement at 58, you can. If not, you stay in and you retire at 65. And some people took early retirement at 58 and not want to stay till 65. But my point is, if you talk to the pension, you talk to SNIT, they have serious problem. And I think that should lead the conversation. The SNIT pot is not enough to take care of the people that are retiring. People are living longer. Today, you meet a 70-year-old and you think the person is 60. So the more we live longer, I think that conversation, and if we extend it to 65, all these extensions will go away. Because the person thinks 60, he's too young. By the time he's 65 and he retires, I don't think people will be asking for extensions.
But at the same time, these people don't need to be GRA boss or that boss. Or with all the expertise they've got, they can go into private enterprise, they can consult and all of that. Again,
but you pay them
sometimes more. even per some of these accepted practices, right? They should have maybe once or twice, 2 years or something. You have some of them 65. They are still in there. I mean, obviously breaches of the law. So sanitizing it, definitely, we should.
No problem.
Let's get into
my paper. Peter's Aurora Empire Secrets Sex Scandal, Cash Reigns unveiled after arrest, which is talking about the Nigerian businessman that was arrested in the flat near the Jubilee House. It's not Peter Benedict. Justice prevail. Government in drive to launch new Ghana airline. Let's go in there and get in some of the stories. I think we've all know about the bustling street of Accra fell silent in disbelief as the notorious Nigerian billionaire Benedict Peters was apprehended in sensational showdown at the exclusive Aurora estate last day. That goes on to basically talk about that. The Mahama put brakes on the post-retirement deals. I think we've already talked about that one. What else is in there that we can look at? Okay, the government in a drive to launch a new Ghana airline. Mm-hmm. Look, I want to take a bite at this. I honestly think that our government officials and our political heads should move away with this nostalgia of a national airline. We should do away. We cannot run an airline at Ghana. Every country before
that's a bit. I agree with you to a certain extent.
No, we cannot.
But that's a bit pessimistic.
No, we cannot. It's not pessimistic. I'm giving you, and I'm going to back it up. Okay. How well an airline, a national airline, do is a direct correlation with how well the economy is doing. You have a very debt-driven economy, you cannot sustain a national airline. And I'll give you examples. Every country that the economy has tanked, the national airline has gone. Italy, Alitalia went.
You know that he's asking for partners.
No, but the point, But so if you're looking for partners, please, a national airline has a certain commitment from government. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what partners you have. Mm-hmm. South African Airways went when the economy tanked. Alitalia, when the Italian economy tanked, it went. All the countries where the economy has tanked, their national airline has gone with it. Because it doesn't matter the partners you have, right? Today, British Airways is not owned by the British government. British Airways is 100% owned by private. It only has the name British Airways.
I was under the impression that the economy was on an upward trajectory.
Well, the economy is on the upward trajectory, but not enough. No, let's not go there, sweetie. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. I'm not going to engage you. No, I'm not going to engage her on that. I'm not going to. She's being devious. She's being devious. I'm not going to go there with her. I'm not going to go there with you.
Operate a national airline because of the economy.
My dear.
But we all agree.
You run a budget.
You did.
You run a budget deficit. We don't run a budget surplus.
No. You can't always have your way. You're not being fair.
What is my way?
She's making a point.
She's being devious.
You want to make your point, but when someone is making her point...
No, but we all know what she's doing. We all know what she's doing.
What am I...
But let her say.
No. I'm not going to let her say. No, don't ask that question.
Okay.
Because the point...
You also get heckled.
So did you...
That's fine.
Take it well.
Did your administration not lay the Flint foundation for a thriving economy?
They did. They did. Yes,
so
but the economy. It doesn't matter how the trajectory is on. The economy is in a good trajectory. The economy is recovering. The economy is doing very well. Much to the surprise of everybody, the NDC now admit that the Russia-Ukraine and COVID-19 affected this economy. And I want Ben and you to actually look in these cameras and tell Ghanaians that you are sorry for listening to the NDC, because you guys believed when the NDC said that the Russian-Ukraine war and COVID-19 had got nothing to do with the economy being the way it was. And you guys believed them. I know what I said. I know what I said. But I'm saying that we as a nation, Ghana, as we stand with the economy we have today, we should move away with the nostalgia of trying to have a national
So you're
airline.
making that conclusive statement based on where we stand right now.
No, based on the fact that
the economy is growing.
No, the fact that I know how this business works.
Yeah.
I am a chairman of an investment bank. My company in Nigeria did the Arik Air, Pan-African Capital, right? Arik Air was owned by Engineer Johnson. We know where Engineer Johnson was in terms of wealth when he started Arik Air, and we know where Arik Air is today. Okay? It's a very serious, it's not something that in this part of the world, and it's to do with where we are as a nation as well. Sub-Saharan Africa.
You can also, since we've mentioned Alhaji Asum Abu Band, you can go to him, Amtrak Air.
Yes, in fact, but I can tell you the history of how they went down. I know exactly, because the son came to see me. We were trying to get them some aircraft from Russia, from Belarus, right? And every airline that has collapsed in Ghana is purely to do with financial. Mainly because, and let me take a minute to explain this. You are going to buy an aircraft.
20 seconds.
That's fine. You're going to buy an aircraft from a market. Your interest you are paying on that lease or on that borrowing to buy that aircraft is higher than the likes of the Emirates and the Europeans because of where you are in sub-Saharan Africa. But you are competing in the same market with the Emirates and the European airlines, okay? So if you are doing a flight to Europe or to Dubai, you can't charge any higher than what Emirates and these airlines are charging. But your overheads are much higher. That's what I'm saying, that we should move away from.
We have to make tracks.
Let me share this thought. I know young people in this country who spend close to 20,000 a week on flights, just Accra, Kumasi, back and forth, because we don't have a national airline, right? Now, from your experience in investment...
But we have an airline.
Hold on. All the experiences you just shared about investments and having seen some of these airlines riddled with financial debt and crippling them and so on and so forth. Is it not a bit myopic to think that because from your experience it is not possible, you are practically saying that nobody else can do it?
Yes. And you just said that you have young people flying Accra, Kumasi. And do you think a national airline will be cheaper? You think it will be cheaper? There is Passion Air and there is Air Africa World. You think a national airline will be cheaper?
Until we get there.
No, do you think, no, I'm just asking you a question. Do you think it will be cheaper? You're saying that people are spending, it can't be cheaper. That's the problem. You see, we always think that, but it can't, no.
You cannot just use your own experience.
I am telling you that a national airline, but you see, you are getting it wrong. You are getting
don't see it happening.
Ms. Abuchi, you are getting it wrong. You just made an assumption that somebody spent 20,000 Accra and Kumasi. There is Passion Air and there is Africa, Passion Air and AWA. You are assuming that if there is a national, it cannot.
Yeah, so that's the point.
That's the point I'm making to you, that it cannot.
Cannot be possible.
I am telling you that because
you have experience.
Listen. I said PDS. No. Hold on. Let me make this point. Ben, 1 minute. I said PDS will not last. Listen, I said PDS will not last 6 months. It didn't last 6 months.
Was it not also partly because of the rollover in governance?
Because the business did not make sense.
If
an airline will not be cheaper, a business
the
airline
PDS would not. I don't think it's
the business.
We are not going to operate an airline from our own coffers here.
All right, please. I think it's.
What we would have to understand is simple. You see. It is as though
no, we don't have too much time.
We are asking.
Let's go.
That was why I was quiet.
Yeah, just make it.
Yes, so you see, it is not as though we want the government to carry the airline on its head or be the chief financier. We are asking, and I think that every well-meaning business Ghanaian and a citizen is asking that: can the government put in place measures to attract investors who would come and invest in a Ghanaian-owned airline? Of course, if that is what is going to help, then we ought to be able to do it. It is not government putting in money. There are a lot of infrastructures out of this country that do not belong to governments. If you go to the Americas and other jurisdictions, airports do not belong to governments. They are privately owned. If you go to Americas and other jurisdictions, airlines do not belong to governments. They are privately owned. Government.
There are rare cases where they are like UAE, Emirates.
Those are.
I'm saying rare cases. There are some cases.
The rest of the places, we encourage local people to bring together resources to own it, and this is the reason we are doing that. You see, these airlines that are privately owned, they come here, we buy the tickets and everything. They carry the money away. But if we have our own airline, we have our own shipping line, the monies remain in the system. It helps boost our economy.
All right.
So we are only encouraging Ghanaians, okay, that government should put in that enabling environment. That is all.
For Ghanaians, and in any case,
energy expert.
I think it's enough.
Don't you think it would not be nice to say, or not attractive to say, that a Ghanaian cannot be an energy expert, and for that matter,
that is not money.
All right.
That's not about money.
So let's
talk about money.
Let's
That's not knowledge.
look at it this way. It is in any country's interest.
Please.
I had a classroom.
Gentlemen, over me. There are reasons. I always say things like roads, major hospitals, having an airline are done by government, because usually private business can't do all of it. But private business can feed into it. And like you've rightly said, in other jurisdictions, it is that way. It is interesting. You were all for it is possible in 2024. And all of a sudden for you,
no, but all the things that it is possible, all the things that we said is possible, I mean, we never said an airline. We never talked about an airline. There was this talk of an Ashanti airline. Have you heard anything about it again?
No, but we all know the dynamic. It wasn't any
possible
airline thing.
The airline is not.
That brings me to my second point. You flew Ethiopian Airlines or whatever and came into the country. And now, that is where my point. That is where my point really is. It is possible. However, if I look at where the country is economically and what our experience has been in the past running, look, our problems have not been just financial. It's been a lack of efficiency and a lack of effectiveness. These flights, all these Boeings, Airbus, and others, they are getting more and more expensive, even when we're using the Fokker air flights, F-O-K-K-E-R, just for so people don't think. What was the cost of running these? So we need, again, like Kwadwo will say, a holistic approach to dealing to this. But sometimes we don't look. Ethiopian Airlines, Kenya Airlines, some of the collaborations they have. I have flown in the sub-region. I have flown Air Peace. I have flown Askai. If you go down to the bottom of Askai, I don't want to say certain things, but we can have these collaborations.
That is it.
Okay? It is not impossible, but where we are, if we are going to do something like that, with the financial hole we are in, with the IMF situation and all of that, you don't just rush into something like this, because we have experience and you must learn from your mistakes. But to rubbish the whole thing and say it is completely impossible, I doubt you would be saying that if we were in a different context.
But I have said that over and over again, and that's my point.
Made this statement to attract
Well,
the thoughts of it and to attract investors to look at that avenue.
The investors,
All right, we should move on because we have 4 minutes.
Okay, let's move on.
So let me, gentlemen, allow me to also do, we've exhausted
Yes,
yours,
please,
but a quick message from a resident in the UK, he's Ghanaian. He says, so 2 things. Hi, Benji, the pensionable age is 67 for men and 66 for women. However, a person is not compelled to retire from work because the EU outlawed age discrimination. But Reverend, I know the EU set up with the UK, so how does it still apply? And then he says the national airline is a non-starter. We collapsed Ghana Airways, we brought Ghana International Airlines, it also collapsed. The idea that a national airline will bring down prices is not supported by the facts. To a certain extent, I agree with you.
Thank you.
But I don't agree wholly. It is also like saying,
it is not possible. Ben, the numbers doesn't add up.
But let me, Kojo, please,
Yesterday,
let me
give you an example.
No.
We can wish all we
examples.
want. We can wish all we
Not
want.
end.
The numbers
I just want to
doesn't
make
add
this point before I read the headlines from the paper,
Sometimes
because
we just have to think beyond
we've done some of the stories in the
today.
Ghanaian Times. I have an interesting comment. Emmanuel Nana Amoateng, he's posted this quite a number of times. It's not the number of times you post that will make us do it, by the way. But he says, host. He refers to me as host. You interviewed the NACOC boss on your show. You checked his phone for the date he took the video. Inspections at the airport when the flight came in. You confirmed to the whole world that the video was taken on the 17th of March. Meanwhile, records show that the flight came in on the 12th of March. From 12th to 16th March, no inspection was made on the flight. Again, your assumption. It was 5 days before the inspection was made. Is this not strange? You should be ashamed of yourself as a political host who didn't ask important questions. The NACOC boss should be sacked. So usually when these things come, I took a quick look at Emmanuel Nana Amoateng, that's his name, on Facebook. And if you check out his posts, I'm sure you will understand where he leans on the political spectrum. Your opinions are very welcome, no matter where you lean. But first, he was on the show, Alexander Chumberima, as Deputy Director of NACOC. In fact, he posts how I grilled him here. That one he posted, conveniently. He never showed any video that said it was on this specific date. All I said was that the video he showed me, because our viewers didn't have the benefit of seeing it, was dated the 16th of March, which he took on his phone. Now, if you look at the dynamics so far, the Ghana Airport Company Limited conducted a search on that airplane, per what Alex mentioned. They conducted their own check. NACOC and National Security also conducted theirs. So you can't assume that theirs came, it wasn't checked all through the 5 days or something of the sort. And indeed, sometimes it becomes very difficult. You have all of these entities that have come and said that we conducted checks. Again, I'll go back to the law. The onus always lies on him who alleges to prove. It's not the other way round. So it becomes a bit, so you can conveniently sit where you sit on the political spectrum and say what you like, but don't think that just because you say it, it must be the truth. It must be the gospel and everyone must toe that line. Do we want this country to become some hub for cocaine? We've had instances in the past where we're labeled and all of that. Nobody wants that. But get your facts right. Simple.
But in that
anyway,
same tone,
let me get into this bit here. And so the Ghanaian Times newspaper, Ghana Czech Business Cooperation, President Wu's investor says Ghana has enabling environment. Whenever I think of the Czechs, I think of their brand Bacha, which is actually spelled B-A-T-A. And I have some of their boots, solid entity. Forestry Commission tasked to rake in more revenue from ecotourism. TUC opposes privatizing state-owned enterprises. High Court acquits discharges Gyakye Quayson, and security operatives storm Ntim Fordjour's residence. You wanted to say something briefly?
Yes, just tying into Ntim Fordjour's thing. Look, I think that the honorable who made the statement is a ranking member of Defense and Interior. He made a statement, and I think for the national discourse, there should have been an investigation into the matter.
But I thought the president himself directed that.
Well, that's fine. But then this whole thing where his house is being raided and all that is not necessary. And we all know that we have to condemn it holistically. If you want to talk to him, he's a member of parliament. Go to parliament, seek permission, talk to him, get his side of the story, how he came about the story, and feed it into your investigation.
All right, thank you very much.
That is very important.
And let me make clear to Mr. Amoateng, I know we have to go. The whole point was the question of when this video was shot versus when Ntim Fordjour made his presser. 16th March, when the video was taken, which I saw, and the 1st of April, or is it the 31st of March? I think the 1st of April, when he did his. Get your facts right. Let's not be so political.
Right.
Those who joined us on the show, would you like to?
Go ahead. I wanted to send shout out some people celebrating their birthdays today. Very first one on my list, Rafiq Salam. Rafiq Salam, our Upper West Regional Correspondent.
Wow.
Always bringing us fantastic stories from up there. Happy birthday going out to Rafiq Salam from all of us, the AM team, and in fact, by extension, the entire newsroom. We wish you the very best of the day. Second one going out to Divine in Germany, an ardent listener of the show. Today is your birthday all the way in Germany and you're watching us. Happy birthday to you. And finally, to Victoria Iziaba, a.k.a. Mrs. Agbeve. Happy birthday, darling. I'll see you later today. Okay, Benjamin, over to you.
Those who joined us, Kwadwo Poku, it's been a while. Thanks for coming. He's an energy analyst. Nana Yosapong is with the Movement for Change. They both joined us. Stay for more action. Sports up next on the AM Show.